What's up, girls and boys? What's up, internet? How are you all doing? I am Bianca and welcome to another Story of Seasons, a wonderful life video, our second one at that, where I will be sharing some starting tips, information you may have missed, and overall just talk about things you must do as a beginner or when you're just starting out. Specifically for the first chapter of this game. The tips format will be a bit different this time around though, since this is a pretty different kind of game compared to the other Story of Seasons title, and this video may stretch out a bit longer, so bear with me for a bit. I will, however, try to avoid spoilers as much as I can.
I respect you.
Now, unlike previous titles that focuses on you building your farming empire and amassing wealth, wooing the marriage candidate of your choice, and just doing what you feel needs to be doing and continuing on with that for however long you decided to play a Story of Seasons title, A Wonderful Life focuses more on character and relationship building. Sure, you still need to care for your farm and your livestock, but that's not as important, especially early on, as forging relationships with the people of the Forgotten Valley. In a way, this deviates from the norm, and with how precise you might need to do things at the time, sticking to the T of things if you want to get everything done, this might make a lot of people who are not familiar with the original A Wonderful Life Harvest Moon game, from which this is remade/remastered, feel intimidated and fall quickly out of love with this. Not to mention that there are some game mechanics that are different here from the other Story of Season flagship titles. Which is why I hope this video helps somewhat to make it easier to play and to ensure you don't miss out on some important things, especially again early on in the game. I have a feeling though that some may complain about me putting some of the things up here, but hey, this guide is for everyone, and that includes those who are new or those who don't really know what they're setting themselves up for when they're thinking about purchasing this game or when they purchase this game. So these things have to be known, and if you already know about them, then good on you.
Pat on the back. Pat on the back. Come on.
Anyways, without further ado, let's begin with the things you may not know of right off the bat. There are a lot of things that move fast in this game. Your character, when inside buildings, especially in your house when you are finally allowed to control them, moves surprisingly fast, which is annoying, especially in the cramped spaces that indoors provide. Tilting the left analog stick a bit will make you walk though, if you're not aware. Progressing through text without waiting for the letters to display one by hitting the confirm button also progresses it way too fast, to the point where at times it's not just by a single line. Similarly, time zooms by so fast in this game and doesn't stop even when you are indoors or even when interacting with your animals, like with brushing or milking them. There's not even a small moment of pause during these actions. The only time it stops or pauses is when there is a dialogue box present, when you're buying something or checking the mailbox, calendar, cooking, or interacting with a menu. Another thing that's different from the norm in Story of Seasons A Wonderful Life is that all the basic seeds you can buy for all the seasons for year 1 are already unlocked at the store, of which you have 3 options whom to buy them from: Cecilia, Vesta, and Matthew. They all sell the same thing though, just so you know. The seasons of when to plant certain crops have changed as well, like turnips now being a summer to autumn crop rather than just being a spring one. So be sure to check the seed's description before buying to be certain that you are buying for the crop that you can plant at the current season you are in. Another thing that is kind of unique to this modernized A Wonderful Life title that some might not have come across with in another Story of Seasons title is the fact that you cannot ship everything. Produce made by your farm, including from livestock, seeds, crops, and fruit trees, are the only ones you can ship in the shipping box. Other things like relics and artifacts dug from the mines, flowers, mushrooms, and herbs and wild plants foraged around town, and food cooked can only be sold to Van, who appears twice a month, or by putting up your own stall. Something we will tackle in a little bit. Speaking of months, a month here is shorter compared to the usual 30 days that other games have. In Story of Seasons A Wonderful Life, there are only 10 days per month, so you really need to plan wisely and plan ahead if you want to get the most of what you can do. The mailbox is also a bit unique in this game as compared to the traditional one we always have and all have gotten used to. This game introduces the expandable deposit box where notifications on wonders obtained, profit, small deliveries, and unlocking trophies can be found. Buying other things outside of seeds and food, as well as upgrading your farm and sometimes even breeding and selling animals, are also done differently here, where you would need to interact with the ledger beside the shipping bin in order to have Takakura buy them from the city. Items purchased will arrive the next day, usually around the same time it was ordered. Farm upgrades naturally take time. Since we already talked about animals, all animals are available to purchase from day one except horses, ducks, and goats. You will get a horse during the first summer. You will eventually get 2 ducks when you build the pond, while a female goat can be bought from Van during spring. Cows here can be milked twice a day, once in the morning and the second time after a 10-hour in-game time interval. They also need to be fed twice a day as well. And before I forget, only female livestock produce milk and eggs. Sheep, on the other hand, provide wool for shearing regardless of gender. On top, regarding multiples, you can also gift villagers in the Forgotten Valley as many times as you want, provided that you're giving them items from different categories or types. They also tell you if they hate, like, or love the item you are showing them before asking whether you are indeed giving it to them or not. Now, if you're like me and like to restart the game several times, whether it be because you didn't like how things were progressing or you need to verify some things in order to make a guide, you can speed up the dialogue in cutscenes by pressing and holding the confirm button. It won't skip the event being played, but it will make the talking parts run by faster, which saves time. Plenty of time, in my opinion. Now, before we actually get to the tips part of the video, let me just bring up a reminder. Don't forget to update your game before starting, since there are some day one fixes that came out with them. Have you updated the game? Good, let's continue on. So let's talk about the tips regarding what you can do inside your house and branch out from there, yeah? First up is cooking. Cooking is already unlocked from the get-go. You can attempt to cook without recipes, but recipes in this game are generally easy to find. You can get them from requests, from speaking with villagers, checking notes found in their houses, and this is the tip right here, speaking to the nature sprites once per day. In order to find the nature sprites, you would need to head up north from your farm and to the Goddess Spring area. There, you will find a giant tree and a couple of mushrooms surrounding it. Eat the mushroom, because what could possibly go wrong in doing that, right?
Eat the mushroom, eat the mushroom. Yes.
and you'll be transported inside the sprite's abode. Speaking to any of them once per day nets you a random recipe. There are times when they won't give you a recipe though, like the day after a festival, and there is a limit to the number of recipes they do hand out, so they will eventually stop handing them over. Note that even if you get the recipes, if it's anything but salads and soups, you won't be able to make them until you have leveled up your cooking. For example, the next two options, hors d'oeuvres and desserts, are unlocked at level 2 when you have prepared 70 dishes. Oh, and while you're still inside the Nature Sprites treehouse, interact with the pots 100 times in order to get a record and a wonder. Wonders are basically achievements in the game, and you need a certain number of them or a couple of them unlocked for the progression of the game's story. Again, you can check for wonders and unlock the trophies associated with them if you're playing this on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox by interacting with the deposit box outside your house. Apart from cooking, your house also houses a journal where you can choose to sleep, also done by interacting directly with your bed, save, check the encyclopedia, corkboard, album, and Takakura's notes. Let's talk about these things quickly one by one, shall we? Like I've said, sleep is for obviously sleeping and moving the day forward. You need to sleep in order to replenish your energy for the next day, and to not lose some hours of progress from fainting or waking up late. How much energy or stamina you replenish depends on two factors: the time you sleep and how full you are prior to sleeping. So here's another tip. On days when you are tired or have overworked yourself, do not just go immediately to bed. Cook some food and try to reach as much fullness as you can in order to replenish the energy and stamina you have lost better. The easiest food to make that will provide enough fullness for this is the herbal soup, cooked with the aromatic herb found around the Forgotten Valley during spring. After sleep, we have the journal, which is one of the more frequent option you will choose in this, as this will allow you to save and load your progress. There are 8 slots for you to save your game in. Note that there is no autosave in this game, so saving is mandatory and required, and something that you must never ever forget to do before closing the game. Please don't forget to save.
Save it!
Following that is the encyclopedia, where you can view all the things you have unlocked in the game, including a little bit of information about them, like animals, byproducts, crops, recipes, fish, tools, archaeological finds, music records, farm facilities, minigames, and residents. Then you get the corkboard, which is that thing you can find atop your bed that shows the story-related pictures of your time in time in the Forgotten Valley. You can't really customize it, so it's more for reminiscing. Then we got album, where you can view the pictures you actually took with the camera Takakura gave you at the start of the game. And lastly, Takakura's notes, which are the tutorial notes in this game and offers the same kind of information as the physical game manual that I showed during our unboxing video. Now that we're done with that, let's head on over to the next item in our house, the TV.
Television on!
The TV is as important, or maybe even more so in this game as it was in the previous ones. It has 4 channels, one for the weather, news, the daily changing channel, and luck. But we are just going to focus on 2 of them, the weather and the luck channels. The weather channel provides the weather for the next 6 hours, so it's a good idea to check at the very least twice a day so you can plan things accordingly. The luck channel, meanwhile, tells you what your luck for the day is. Luck determines how fast a fish will bite and how fast you can reel them in while fishing, as well as how successful you can make hybrids, which is something we will tackle in a separate video. Therefore, it is much more lucrative to do these activities when your luck is high. Just so you know, luck doesn't seem to have an impact on how many things you can dig up at the mines, since I've I've dug up golden items even when my luck was low. Other things you can find inside your house are the record player for changing what music you would want playing while in the farm area. You would need to find records in order to expand your library though, which you can get from requests and as gifts. The mirror for changing your appearance and looking at yourself. Doing so 3 times would net you a wonder, by the way. And the calendar for viewing when Van would be around, which is always the 3rd and 8th of the month, and what festivals, meager as they are, would be happening that month. And that's about it for the stuff you can do inside your house for the first chapter or the first year of the game. Let's now move on to the farm area now. Now, you start off with a pretty big area for a farm, but with not much in it. You get your farmhouse, a coop, a barn, 2 plots of land for sowing seeds, 2 small sheds, one where the ledger and the shipping box is located, and another for the item and food storage and for the other things you will end up getting later on. Like I've said, the other farm facilities need to be purchased from the ledger in order for your farm to expand. Other items that you will end up getting for it can either be bought and or obtained through friendships, like the seed maker for instance, which you can get as early as spring the first year. How? Well, by befriending the quote-unquote mad scientist Daryl. You can find him mostly in his lab/house in the middle of Wait, in the middle of town? How is that possible considering the kinds of experiment he does there? How? Or you can use the map, which will show you where the townsfolk are at any given time. By the way, Daryl likes fish, cooked meals, and anything you dug up from the dig sites, so he's pretty easy to befriend. Now, similar to Pioneers of Olive Town, the seed maker takes time to make seeds and gives 2 seed per crop item. It does have 12 slots for 12 crops though, for a maximum total of 24 seeds per run. Now, right outside of your house, and as we've mentioned several times already in this video, beside the door is the expandable deposit box. You will interact with this every day and every time you get a wonder or buy items from the ledger. If you get a gift, this is where you will look as well. Also, if you end up getting a DLC. Like for instance, I don't know if you guys do know about this, but right now, Marvelous and Exceed has 2 DLCs up for this game. Costumes both. One a pack which you can buy for $3.99, and the other one, the Muku Muku outfit, you can grab for free. So get that now if you want. But when you do, you will need to get the outfit itself from the deposit box first before it will appear in your wardrobe selection when you use the mirror. There is also a dog house right beside your house. And you get the dog at the start, as the game lets you pick one of 2, a pointy-eared or a droopy-eared one. Regardless of who you choose, the only difference is how they look like. You can pick up your dog and talk to it if you want, tell him how a good boy he's been and how much he smells like sunshine. How cute is that? You can also train the dog right off the bat, but not when it's raining. They'll stay inside their doghouse and will never leave no matter how much you whistled or begged. You don't have to worry about feeding it though. Takakura will see to that. So how do you train your your dog? You would need to stand next to them and press the square button. You will then be given a couple of button options. Flicking the left analog stick will let you train your dog to spin, the square to beg, the triangle to jump, and X to give its paw. Circle cancels through the selection. You can train it 7 times per trick before it will grow tired and not want to train anymore. So why is training your dog important? Well, training him will give you a wonder down the line, but also because of one particular character who has a penchant for stealing stuff from your farm. Pooey. Now, Pooey is not really a bad guy. I can't say if he's not really a smelly guy either, but I do know he's just a poor, stranded soul who wants to go back home but doesn't have the means to do so, so he's looking for help and living as best he can, and who you should definitely befriend if you want to get a blessed tool. the Blessed Sickle. To get the Blessed Sickle, you must not only befriend Pui in the conventional sense of giving him food that he likes, but also to donate to him when he is asking for donations by the bridge. The amount doesn't really matter, as the only important thing is the number of donations made. He will eventually have a request plastered on the request board that will require you to give him one golden relic. So here's another tip. Don't sell a golden relic the first time you encounter them or the first time you get them from the dig site. Otherwise, because of how random and RNG based mining could be, you may be looking for it for a long time and you may miss out on completing his request and thereby missing out on getting the blessed tool. Moving on from the dog and the doghouse, let's head on over to the coop. When you first begin the game, the coop can house up to 8 chickens. Chickens can be purchased again from the ledger. And these 8 chickens share the same feeding furrow, which means when there's only 1 chicken, a single chicken feed can last for months. So here's a tip. Wait until the feeding furrow is completely empty before refilling it, since the same amount is placed regardless if there is still some food in it or not. Again, only female chickens lay the eggs, and if you want to hatch a chicken from an egg, you would need a male chicken. With a male and a female chicken, you can sometimes get a fertilized egg that you can then put into the incubator, and it will, after several days, hatch into a cute little chick. Fertilized eggs can also be used as ingredients for food, the same as normal eggs, but they sell much more than their normal counterpart. Also, they have a different pink shade than the ordinary white ones, so you can tell which is which. Another thing to note is that the eggs will be underneath chickens and or ducks at times. And if you move them outside for grazing using the bell near the coop, you may need to look for the eggs if they end up wandering about. So what I typically do is just bring them over to the fence enclosure and have them roam there to be able to find them and their eggs easier. You can also pick up the chickens, which will allow you to talk and snuggle up to them, an action that is helpful when it comes to raising their affection and thereby raising the quality of their byproducts. Just don't snuggle to them when they're sleeping, since they and the rest of your farm animals will not like it. Do note that if you end up getting the pond upgrade, and if you want the 2 ducks that may sometimes come along with them, you would have to make sure that there is a space for them in the coop. Now, below the coop is the barn, which will house all the non-bird animals in your farm, including your horse. Cows have 2 feeding furrows, since you need to feed them twice. The other livestock only have 1. Like the denizens of the coop, you can also talk to and snuggle with your cows, goats, sheep, and horse. But you will need some more additional tools in order to fully take care of them and get their byproducts. They are also much more high maintenance. These tools will be given to you by Takakura, except for the brush that you need to buy from Van. So here's the tip. Buy the brush first. This will ensure that your animals will not be stressed and that you will end up getting higher and nicer quality byproducts early on. You can also find the fodder dispenser on the right of the barn. On the southern exit is the field where your livestock can graze. And you can get them all to graze by ringing the bell out there. Do note that you need to ring the bell near the coop for the animals there to come out, and it's not a one bell to rule them all kind of thing. Here, you will start off with a couple of tall grass you can harvest with the sickle and get fodder from. Sometimes it's much better to turn them into actual fodder than just let them lay there as is in the field, as you get quite a bit more fodder that way when you do. And you do need to keep a stock on fodder, since the weather in this game can change at any moment. Note that when grazing, you need to make sure that there are actually some grass for your animals to feed on. Otherwise, you'll find that their stress heightens and their health meters will deplete, and your byproducts will end up being of lower quality, ones that you can't really sell. To get the field to have grass, use fertilizers on them. Again, don't forget that only the female versions of the animals can get milk. So if you want to get more byproducts, you would need to buy the female animals first. Now, if you have a male and a female in the barn, they will naturally get pregnant, and that involves a whole lot of taking care of the pregnant cow, which is something I think is best tackled in a separate video. The best tip, however, that I can give right now when it comes to the barn animals is to always get the female versions of them first when you want to make money. But if you need to choose an animal to best invest on early on due to its return of investment, that would be the sheep. Their wool sells for as much as you buy them for, so you essentially get your money back after only a few days. Their wool also regrows every 5 days. And before I forget, you can push your animals if you're having a hard time putting feed in their throat. You can also call your horse anywhere at any time, except obviously inside houses and shops, and they will make moving around the valley faster and more efficient. From the barn and to the left is the actual fields for farming. You get 2 plots for those. The one on the left has soil of poor quality, and the one on the right has a higher quality soil. So here's the tip for this part of the farm. Invest on as much trees as you can early on. Plant them as soon as you can and plant them in the lower quality soil. Plant the first ones near the edge, take one space and plant the other. This way you can make the most on the space to plant more, the time it takes for them to grow, and the profit that will come from them later down the line. As for your crops, don't use the entire field at once. Change where you plant crops instead to prolong the soil's quality level. You can also mass plant a crop seed by pressing and holding the action button. You will notice a green bar underneath the button prompt to the right of the screen and notice the blue highlight increasing in reach. Release it when satisfied to plant more than one seed at a go, saving your time. Fertilize your crop as well. You can do so twice a day, similar to the number of times you would need to water your crops. This is useful for getting higher quality crops for higher quality seeds early on. You can also tell if a crop is ready for harvest, if not for how they look like, because I know it can be confusing in this game, by checking the color of the highlight on the ground. If it's yellow, it means it's ready for harvest. This is especially useful with fruit trees since you can tell if you can still shake the tree for fruit by this method as well. If there are still fruits to be harvested from the tree, the highlight will remain yellow. Harvest crops as soon as you can since they will wilt, and some of them do wilt fast. Before we leave the farm, here's a tip that might be overlooked by some. Before selling items in the shipping box, check the prices first. Some items sell more as they are, while others sell more once processed. Now let's move on from the farm and head northward first. Here, as I've previously mentioned, is where the Goddess Spring and the Nature Sprite's home could be found. But did you know that you can also find a shortcut to the mines, aka the dig site, from here? It's right across the Goddess Spring, and it's this shallow part of the water you can cross from. It makes getting to the site much faster, just so you know. Also, be sure to forage the items you can find along the way. You can keep pressing the confirm button to harvest them even if you're holding onto the same item already. This will immediately put the item you are holding into your bag, which will save you time as well. Some of the important items to forage and store for their uses later on are aromatic grass found during spring for the herbal tea and happy lamp found during summer to be used for hybrids later. And since we're here, let's talk a little bit about the dig site. In A Wonderful Life, you can't really mine ores to upgrade your tools, and upgrading tools is done differently and mostly through van, and boy do they cost a lot.
Arms for the poor.
Instead, the mine simply offers relics and artifacts that you can sell or gift to other villagers. There's a bunch of wonders associated with this dig site as well. And it does have a schedule. It's only open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. except on van days or days when van is around, when it's closed for the entire day. Not only that, but there's only a set amount of squares of land you can actually dig at the start of the game, with the dig site expanding as the game progresses. Sometimes relics show themselves early. Otherwise, it takes a couple of digging for them to appear for you to actually get them. Oh, and don't worry about the shovel, by the way. Carter will provide you with one while you're working down there. I do have a little bit of a tip for the mines though, but it might not always work. If you're ever in a scenario where you found a relic on the ground and are still digging it, but the clock is ticking a few seconds before closing time, you can sometimes spam the dig button, repeatedly pressing it like your life depended on it in order to get the relic and not get booted out. Sometimes it works, other times it doesn't, but essentially what you need to do is get the timing right so that your character remains squatting and digging and doesn't stand up. You can also keep digging in the same exact spot as well, even if you already got something from there, as new relics might be unearthed from the same spot. For reference, you can dig out 6 items in Chapter 1. The coin, the leaf fossil, clay figurine, moonlight or golden fork, and the first rune. Also, as a reminder again, if you ever dig out a golden relic or a golden fork and have not finished or even initiated Pui's request, don't sell it. Even though it does sell a lot. Keep one until you finish his quest. Also, before it completely slips my mind and going back a bit to upgrades, although Van does sell them, they only appear after a certain time has passed and when you have achieved a number of uses for those specific tools. Anyways, below the dig site is Vessa's farm, where you can buy the seeds. And close to that is the mountain pass. Heading through it will allow you to visit other towns, which may sound like a cool idea, right? But in actuality, it amounts to nothing but a waste of 6 in-game hours. You may want to do it for immersion since your character does experience stuff in the city as told by a black screen and some text, but personally, it's a total pass for me. Now that we're done with the outskirts, let's head into the town itself. There's a lot of things you can do and find in the town, like the shops, the people, minigames, and the request board. The request board is pretty important for its wonders: increase in affection every time you complete a request, the rewards for completing said requests, and just feeling like you're a part of the town. Now, checking it daily can be tedious, and a few steps toward it can cause you seconds you may not want to spare to it. So let me share an easier way to tell if there are new requests or not. The pinwheels. If there are new requests, the pinwheels will turn. Otherwise, it will stay stationary. Isn't that useful? Or you can bet on the fact that new requests will appear on the 1st and 6th of each month. I actually just wanted to point out the pinwheels because that's a pretty nice little detail as well. Past the inn, you may notice a circular pattern on the ground. This is where you can set up your stall. You can set up your stall at any time and take it down just as quickly. So if you're ever strapped for a crash, or if you're running low on inventory space and Van is still a few days away, this is the way to go.
This is the way.
Customers don't come as quickly as one would like though, so if you're not careful, you may end up wasting more time than you would like. In your stall, you also have an option to raise or lower prices, keep them as is, or not sell the item in question. And each villager can shop in your stall for 3 items until they call it quits for the day. What I would suggest in setting up your stall is wait for when people are actually heading in that direction. Like if you see them moving up or down the road from there. That way, you can get a potential customer rather than waiting all day. Also, you can set up your stall on Van days as well. Just make sure to take it down before he arrives at 12 noon. Speaking of Van, he is also whom you can buy the fishing rod from, which you will need since some requests concerns fish as well. Not to mention that they make great gifts. As a source of money though, not so much. Apart from that, he also sells clothes. If you ever feel that Van's items are being sold high, you can try to haggle once you become close friends with him. He will even lower the prices for you even without prompting if you two become close. Unlike previous titles, A Wonderful Life doesn't have seasonal fish. Rather, the fish you get depends largely on the rod you use. So, unless you upgrade the rod you bought, you will end up with the same 4 fishes throughout the game. Close to the stall area is Nina and Gary's house. Without diving into spoiler territory while ensuring you make the most out of this game, here's a tip. Give flowers, aromatic herbs, herbal tea, or herbal soup to Nina every single day. Interact with her as much as you can and get her to the highest friendship possible as quickly as you can. Again, 4 reasons. You can trigger 3 important scenes for Nina. The first could happen during autumn and winter, except for when Van is around from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a sunny weather by exiting Kustafa's yurt. The second one when exiting Gordy's house during a sunny winter, and the third by exiting the cafe during a sunny winter as long as Van is not around from the 4th to the end of the month. Be sure to catch those events. Now here's another interesting fact about the houses in Story of Seasons A Wonderful Life. Specifically, houses where the marriage candidates live. If you want to know how much they like you, essentially similar to the heart colors in the previous titles, you can find their diaries. Of course, you can just go and press triangle to open the menu and head to the resident info tab to see them there, but these diaries are useful and nice for those who prefer the colored labeled ones. Finally, in case you are worried about friendship or relationship deteriorating in this game, don't. With the exception of Vinny, who you will meet in Chapter 2, none of the villagers' affection for you will go down if you fail to speak with them after a while. And there you guys have it. Now, I know there are a couple of things missing in this video. I purposely left them out for the next one because they deserve their own space and also because this has gotten quite long. Sorry. So yeah, I have tons of things to say about this game which we can save for another time. But to reiterate, Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life focuses more on character development than farm development. So here are the last 2, if not most important things I can say to you when playing this game. Firstly, take time to get to know, talk to, gift, and interact with the townsfolk. Marriage and having kids is the core aspect of this game, and failing to do that can result in a game over. And lastly, try not to rush. Do things at your own pace while making the most of it. Enjoy each moment, cherish it, learn from it as you do with life, and try to shape your story in a way that you can say that your character did indeed have a wonderful life. And that's all the time we have for today. Until the next video, I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, and as always, you guys know the drill. Dream on, fly on. Bye bye for now. Keep safe, everyone.
Someday we'll have a last conversation, drink our last cup of coffee. Someday we might be 80 and think about the different things